So, first things first, Harrison, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's I had a nice little nap in the van today, which is whenever you can get sleep, it's very important. Like you were saying before.
Yeah, fair enough. And then is it difficult because on the road, I suppose you have all these increments of maybe an hour here, 2 hours there. You're sitting in the bus waiting, and so do you have to kind of take those moments for what they are and just.
Yeah, in terms of like having a break.
Yeah, in terms of, because I suppose as a musician you're waiting a lot. And
yes.
So do you kind of try to utilize that time?
Yeah, there is like a lot of killing time because like out of the whole day you might be traveling for half the day,
right? And
then you do sound check for an hour and then perform for an hour. So you don't actually technically work for very long. So it's like, yeah, a lot of I've got this game on my iPhone that I've been playing a lot, and my tour manager's like, mate, you got to stop playing that game. But yeah, I think there's like a lot of time where I'm trying to sleep or read or just listen to music and yeah, kill time, I guess.
Do you write while on the road, or is
like
that more of
writing music?
Yeah.
Yeah, generally not as much as I should and not as much as I'd like to. But I think it generally kind of happens when I'm like in the backstage green room or something like that. Yeah.
So you need to kind of settle in a little bit, because I can imagine being in the back of a bus or something that might be too distracting.
It's not the best environment, and yeah, I think I need like a very comfortable environment to write. So yeah, I'm not very good at writing on the road.
Well, talking about comfortable environments, then I have to look just so I get it right. You're from Mornington, in Australia, which is quite a beautiful place, I suppose. So, and then you've talked before about your parents being quite creative, so that kind of got you into it. But when did you yourself first start writing? Because you say I need comfortable surroundings. So when did you start writing?
I think like my earliest memories of like writing my own song, I would have been maybe 16 or 17.
Okay.
So I guess like quite late, but yeah, it took, I was like always learning other like music that I was listening to. There was always people with acoustic guitars. So I'd always like learn their songs to try and figure out how a song was written. And then that naturally kind of led to me, just like playing some basic chords and just writing some bad songs to kind of figure it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, well, I don't know if this is a correct assessment, but it's kind of on your mother's side the musical side, and then on your father's side the lyrical side in a way.
I think so. Yeah. My mum was always playing guitar. She's like she doesn't play anymore, but growing up she was we had this beautiful acoustic guitar that she had since she was 16 years old. Okay. It was a Japanese guitar, and she'd always just play around the house, and she'd have some kind of instrumental acoustic music that she'd written. Okay. And that was something that I always thought was, it always just felt like it was always just like a natural part of me growing up. And like I'd finish her songs that she'd write or that she'd half written, and maybe add like a different section in the song. Okay. And then my dad, he was writing poetry, and as mum and dad, they did it just for fun, just for themselves. It was nothing that they probably showed their friends or something like that. Okay. But it was always very like, in the house. And I think having my dad kind of look at life through like the eyes of poetry, I don't know, made me kind of think about it a little bit more than the average person, I guess.
But I can imagine people like Bob Dylan, Neil Young, that's kind of... Was he the one who led you in that direction?
Yeah, my dad listened to a lot. We had like a lot of Neil Young playing and Bob Dylan when I was growing up, and that definitely influenced my perception of words, I think, and like the meaning of a phrase or something like that. Yeah.
On a quick side note, have your parents, because you say they've always done it for fun, and now that you've kind of are trying to make a living or are making a living out of it, have you talked with them about that? Did they ever have those kind of aspirations?
I don't think
early
so.
on? Yeah,
no, I don't think so. It was always, it was just, they always supported me, like making music, and like there was always instruments around the house, and it was just something that just happened. It was never, but I don't think, like some of my family members, I have like a cousin who is he's an incredible trumpet player, and he like toured the world with this other band playing the trumpet. But that was kind of like the only professional, like the serious professional. And yeah, it was just kind of fun for me and everyone else in my family. Yeah, it was never, they've always supported me, but it was never something that they'd thought, I don't think that they ever thought that I would make a career out of it or anything like that.
And then that's not something they wanted early on in their lives either? Because you say your mother had a guitar at 16?
Oh, you know, I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
But yeah, you know, it's always like a pipe dream, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's a very interesting thought, because for you yourself, then, when did you kind of realize, well, this is actually doable? I can actually, if I work hard enough, and then.
Yeah. I think it's always been something that I never thought was, because I didn't know any professional musicians, or, you know, growing up, me and my friends, we'd just kind of play music for fun or whatever. And yeah, it wasn't until I met someone at university, a friend, who was in a reggae band.
Okay.
And I moved in with him and his band, and that was like my introduction into, like, they weren't full-time musicians, but they were performing a lot. And I guess that through that I met some people, you know, who were actually professional musicians. And, you know, it was kind of just like having a conversation, or you could kind of get a taste of what it might be like to do it professionally. But yeah, it was never something that I ever thought would ever happen, and I still doesn't kind of feel real.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
Well, you're in Amsterdam, so you must be doing something right. But in that sense, then, because you say you started writing around 16, 17, and then in college that kind of idea dawned on you.
Yeah.
But then you dropped out, so there must be something about it that you thought, well, I have to. Or how did that decision kind of go? Did you think I need to kind of focus? Was there a turning point of sorts?
It was like a slow turning point. I think when I finished high school, between maybe 19 and 20, I started playing like local cafes and like a bar, and that was kind of where I really enjoyed playing live, and I had some songs on SoundCloud that were kind of getting some recognition and like some nice comments that were really encouraging. But yeah, I think I studied for 2.5 years, something completely different to music, and it was like the first year I was really into my studies, and then as the second year came on, I started to like play some more shows and write more, and it was just, it was like a slow thing, but by the time I was like 2.5 years into this course, the new semester started, and I sat down in like this maths lecture, and I was just like, I want to play music. Like, yeah. So I thought if I was to like look back on my life, I would really regret not giving it a try, because it was always a dream of mine to play music. Yeah. And
those early shows that you mentioned, playing in bars, and especially the type of music that played, quite intimate. So was that a challenge? I can imagine.
For sure. Yeah. I think I was really lucky. A friend of a friend approached me, and because you know, there wasn't many musicians in the town that I grew up in, and it wasn't a very musical town. Okay. But he started running this bar. And they needed like a music night every Tuesday. So he was like, hey, do you want to like book the bands? And I'm like, and play? I'm like, I don't know any bands, and I haven't really performed before. But I was like, okay. And he was like, you know, pushing me. He really wanted me to do it. So anyway, we ended up doing that. every Tuesday, and I started like people. I think we got like a little bit of a reputation, and other artists would come forward, and we started this community in this town I lived in, and where I didn't think there was a community, and that was really encouraging. And we were lucky. Like obviously, I play like some slower, down-tempo folk music,
right?
And the environment catered for that. You know, we had people sitting on the floor and listening to singer-songwriters all night, every Tuesday. So it was like, yeah, it was like, well, if this is happening in my hometown, it could happen in other cities and other towns around the country. So it was just, yeah, that was kind of like the base of it all, where it all kind of started and gave me confidence in doing what I do, I guess.
Do you have a favorite memory from that time? Maybe a show or something?
Yeah, I think there was...
that you can share, that you're allowed to share?
Yeah, it was always pretty... there was like a sense of... it wasn't very organised. And, you know, you'd play for half an hour and then there might be like a half an hour break. And there was no strict timeline, but I think... And that was kind of like the fun thing about it. It was very easygoing. But there was one night where we kind of really started building a following, and we got told that there was like a line of people out the door wanting to come in, because there was nothing happening else in that town for that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that moment was like, wow, like this is like, and just looking around, there was people everywhere, just having a really good time, and then, you know, drinking beers and playing games or whatever, and then when the music would start, everyone would listen. Okay. And that was kind of like, I think it took maybe like 3 or 4 months for that to really happen, and that was like, wow, this is special. Yeah.
But that's an interesting thought as well, because kind of that realization of that you can connect with people or touch people with your creativity, with your music. What did that do for kind of, you mentioned confidence, but how did that affect you?
I think so. While this music night was happening, I had just recorded some demos at home that I put on SoundCloud, like I said before, and they were, you know, starting to get some streams and people were commenting. So it was like that online aspect combined with this physical aspect of playing shows. Yeah, just kind of, it all just started bubbling up to a point where I felt like it was, yeah, like I must be doing something right. And it felt good to write those sort of songs just from a personal perspective. And all of these things combined, just, I don't know, just, yeah, I guess I felt really inspired.
Okay.
And just sharing it with my friends, like everyone was kind of so supportive. Yeah, it was a really like organic and natural thing, I guess. Right. Yeah.
How soon after then did Sense of Home kind of bubble to the top?
So I think I put maybe four demos online, and Sense of Home was one of them.
Okay.
And that was, you know, something that I just recorded. I've still got the demo, which it's like hilarious to listen to because it just sounds terrible. But like the foundation of the song's there. And then I was dating this girl who knew this guy who, you know, it's like always friend of a friend. Sure. And in our local area, he was doing quite well. He was an artist and a producer. And through this girl that I was dating, I met him because he was like the only producer that I knew that lived near me.
Right. This is Hayden.
Hayden Cullen. Yeah. And yeah, it was like, I didn't even know. I think it was like it took a while to like lock him down, because he's very much he's very carefree in a great way. I think that's like what makes him so special. He kind of just like does his own thing. So, you know, it took a few like emails like, hey, when are we doing this? And we ended up recording. He moved from where I was living to the city, and he had like this tiny little studio in his house, and that was in 2014. And yeah, I had a good friend of mine that I'd met who was a guitarist, and him and me and Hayden, we just spent maybe a week or two just recording 4 songs for my first EP, and Sense of Home was one of them. And yeah, we put it up on Spotify through like CD Baby or something like that. And it just, yeah, it took like, again, it took a long time for things to start adding up.
Okay.
But it was all really encouraging. It was slow, and it's, you know, it's still kind of like building slowly, but it's just like, I think that's the way I like working.
Well, it's an interesting thing, because I don't know if grind is the right word for it, but that kind of I always like to ask this of artists, kind of this period of kind of having to relentlessly go at it. How important is that in terms of kind of?
Yeah, like personally, I think I'm very I'm very ambitious, and I think that having that kind of those few years studying, and you know, like really knowing that I had to, if there was like an assignment or something that I had to learn, I really had to put in the hours and learn as much as I could to get there. So I kind of applied that mentality to music, and I was like, I want my song to, you know, be on the playlist or whatever. So I just researched how do you get songs on playlists, and like, what do you do? And I just began like emailing blogs, and I started like playing music on the street, like busking, and just like just doing everything I could, like playing weddings, just anything that involved music, I was like saying yes to, even if I like really didn't enjoy it.
Right.
But yeah, there was like a lot of hustling and grinding and doing things that I didn't like, and for the ultimate goal of where I wanted to be. And I still apply that. But it's just kind of more refined now.
Sure.
Yeah.
But in terms of experience, because I've heard that a lot, that especially busking, that it's a very good teacher in terms of being on stage and learning to gauge your audience. For sure. And that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Busking, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think my music's obviously not very much suited for the streets.
Sure.
Because it's not, you know, I don't really have like a performance aspect to my show. It's very much like an intimate thing. So we had to kind of draw the crowds in. We'd have to learn like maybe a popular cover or just do a song that wasn't our own really well. And my really good friend, Justin Lewis, who I've been working with for a long time, and he's also my housemate. We had a few like tricks up our sleeves where he'd like tap the guitar, like guitar percussion. And that was kind of like, you know, that would stop people and bring people in. And then once we had a crowd, we'd play our own songs. And that, you know, then we'd sell our little CDs that we made. But yeah, you know, like that, I think that was kind of, it just taught me that, yeah, in your set, even as a support artist, it's probably more important to have like a cover in your set so you can draw people in. But yeah, you know, I learned so much from busking. Right. Yeah.
And then now people show up for you, which is very good. And your new EP, Falling Down, I think you said about this is maybe the closest you felt to the songs that you've written. So creating that intimate setting and then having these songs like Falling Down is about relationships, I suppose. How to Help is quite a interesting song, and then personal, I suppose. So how do you try to, or let me ask it differently, do you think about how it will work in a live setting when you write?
Yeah, I think my idea of when I write a song to how I want it to sound as like a finished product have always been a little bit different. Okay. But I think now, more that I'm touring more, I'm really thinking about how I can actually play it live. Just because at the moment it's me and my guitar. So yeah, with like the Falling Down EP, I can play all of those songs like by myself, like when I'm on tour. But what I like to listen to is sometimes different to that. Okay. So it's, you know, there might be, it's like obviously like drums in it and stuff like that, which if you come to my show at the moment, there's no drums. So I think that's something that I kind of want to work on is like, in the future with my recordings, will I be able to perform this live where it's like believable and people are satisfied with the live version as opposed to the recorded version? And it's always something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, because you do have multiple versions of Falling Down, and my personal favorite is the acoustic, kind of the stripped down one. So there's something in there for everyone, I suppose. But a song like How to Help, which covers, I suppose it's a topic that a lot of people can relate with. How does something like that turn into a song, in a way?
Yeah, I think so. That song, I can remember, there's only like, I feel like songs that really mean something to me, I can remember where I was when I wrote it and like what I was feeling. And I was away from home, and I was like in this town that I hadn't been before in an Airbnb, and I just, you know, I was on the phone to someone back home, and it was just, you know, something that you just didn't want to hear, like someone that you love is just like going through something really bad. And you're just like on the other side of the world, and that person means a lot to you. So it's and I just had like this crazy this crazy feeling of just, I guess, feeling like really isolated and helpless. And I was by myself, but I was with my guitar, so I'm like, what's a songwriter gonna do here? So I just wrote about it.
No, but that's an interesting thing as well, because has music always functioned in a way as a refuge in a way, or a way to make sense? Because that's something I hear every once in a while as well. Some kind of a vehicle to make sense of things that happen in your life.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's kind of what attracts me to music in general. And especially early on, listening to music, I always enjoyed listening to songs where I could, if I was going through something personally, I could listen to a song and it might have a different perspective on that issue, but I could think about it differently and maybe change the way I deal with it. It's always been something that I want to convey with my music is something. Hopefully, someone can learn something from the song, but it's always when I'm going through something myself, or trying to understand something. But it's funny, like I think usually when it's like I'm just caught up in this emotion, I don't really understand what's going on. I'll like write a song, and months later, I'll listen back to it and I'll be like, oh, like that's what I was like trying to say, or like that's what that feeling was. And it's really weird because like it's like a little time capsule. You like look back and you can really understand what's going on. And then with like hindsight, you can learn from that, hopefully.
Right, you kind of see, this is what I was thinking back then, and now. Fair enough. Yeah. And then, in terms of in respect to How to Help, do you know if that person knows that the song is about them?
Yeah, I showed them.
Okay, before you released it?
I think when I was getting like some mixes back, because I just felt like it was the right thing. It was really emotional to show them.
Sure, I can imagine.
But that's kind of what I wanted. How I wanted them to feel. I wanted them to feel like I was, you know, that I was thinking of them, and I was like, that I really cared about them. So, I was like sitting there when they were listening to it, and I'm like, because you know, there's just like something you can say something to someone about how you feel, but I don't know, like singing and music is just like saying the same words, but packed with so much more feeling. You can get so much more across to someone sometimes.
So in that sense, is that true about those songs about relationships then as well, because and then you have a couple breakup songs and that kind of stuff. Is it? I can imagine in a way it's easier to sing about some of those things that you wanted to say or maybe didn't say or whatever. Yeah. It's probably easier to sing it than to.
I know. I'm not sure if it's a bad thing though. Like
fair enough. But I can imagine, because like you say you do write about real people. So do you have to take that into account?
Yeah, I think like you know, you can listen to a song and you'll be like, if someone actually knew that this was written about them, like they would. I don't know, would they want that to be released or something like that? Because it can be, you know, obviously some songs are just so personal. But I don't think I make it, I like to think that I don't make it obvious enough.
Right.
When it's, you know, and I think that's kind of maybe what people like about my music, is that it's about something, but they can apply it to different people, different aspects of their life. So I think that ambiguity is a little bit, it's like a little bit of a safe space where people personally, if it was written about them, don't feel attacked or,
sure.
You know.
Kind of a little bit of separation.
Exactly,
yeah, fair enough. Finally then, well, I have two more questions. So one is about ambition, because you mentioned ambition, and yeah, what is your? I don't like goal, because you don't really know what's going to happen and that kind of stuff. But do you have kind of a vision of how you want your career to be?
Yeah, I think it's my vision's definitely changed. Okay. Like I think would happen to any artist as you kind of get more involved with like the industry and just how it affects you as a person. Yeah, I think. If I kind of look back on maybe my mindset 5-6 years ago, I think I'm doing what I would like to have done. So now it's kind of like, okay, I'm at this point now. Where do I want to go now? Where do I want to go next? And I think it's become more of a personal life balance thing for me now. Like, I think if I keep doing what I'm doing currently, I can see things moving in a really nice upwards direction at a pace that I'm comfortable with. But I really want to, you know, there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make.
Sure.
And I think I would, really like to, and that I'm very aware of that, and how that affects my friendships and family life, and you know, so I think my goals or my vision is to kind of have like a really good balance of touring, and then spending time at home with my friends and family, doing things that I like that aren't related to music. So, and that's something that's always going to be changing, that relationship with music and my personal life. And I've been lucky enough to tour with some artists who have been doing it for a long time, who have, you know, given me some advice that's really helpful. And I think, it's just taking things slow in a way that's like, I'm not going backwards. Yeah.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Cool.
Harrison, thank you very much for your time.
Man, thanks for the great questions.
Thank you.